Do your hips feel tight no matter how much you stretch them? What if that tightness isn't a flexibility problem at all? Today I want to show you the difference between, well, truly tight hips and protective hip tension, and why stretching alone often does not do the trick. So when you're looking at tight versus protective hip tension, I'm going to show you the difference today. True tightness, short, stiff tissues that need mobility work, versus protective tension, the nervous system's guarding to help keep you safe. Many adults with low back and hip challenges actually fall into the second category. Stretching may make that guarded tissue feel even worse, or it only helps very briefly. So today I want to teach you some simple things to differentiate and some ways you can help yourself. Hi, I'm Dr. Matt Bradbury, family corrective chiropractor, and here we are in Georgetown, Ontario, Canada. This is our practice, One Life Family Chiropractic. Today I'm going to be talking about, well, the difference between tight hips and protective hip tension. And if you're just tuning in, I love having you. Take a moment, make sure you subscribe, like. I love interacting with you, and I'd love to continue to help you and interact with you down the road. So some signs is protective tension. Hips feel worse after long days and stressful weeks. Stretching feels good in the moment, but doesn't necessarily last. Maybe your low back begins to tighten when you aggressively stretch your hips. Movement feels maybe somewhat blocked, but not necessarily completely limited. So step one is actually reduce some tone before stretching. Your body needs to feel safe before ranges necessarily start to improve. So here's some things I'd recommend that you can do at home. I'd start to work on the soft tissues, but most importantly, I would really narrow in on how I breathe. So what I would do is focus on some nasal breathing and longer out than in. So you can see here, I'm working on surrounding structures of my hip, like my TFL. I come up a little higher on my glute med, maybe my glute in the meat of it. And what I'm doing with my breath work is I'm actually focusing on 4 seconds out and 2 seconds in. And what you're gonna do is apply that strategy, well, for a couple of minutes as you work around your hip. So you may work for a minute on your glute, up to your glute med, and then your TFL. So you have 2 to 3 minutes of you focusing on your breathing. And what I'm gonna do is actually breathe, do that 10 times. So 4 seconds out, 2 seconds in, which is gonna help calm your nervous system as well as you work on some of those trigger points and just focus on reducing some of that tone before you necessarily start the actual stretching part. So step number 2 is actually gently restoring motion. And what I'll do if I was working at home on myself is actually just focusing on some hip extension like this. You can be on the edge of the couch, or you can actually bring your foot down, prop it up on a pillow to regress it a bit, or regress it a little bit more so that your foot's flat on the ground. But what I'm doing here again is really narrowing in on my breath work, 4 seconds out, 2 seconds in, and you're focusing on restoring gentle motion. And what I'm doing here is focusing on the hip extension, focus on both sides. Of course, after you've reduced some tone by using the soft tissue ball or the foam roller, you'll notice a lot of emphasis here is focused on you doing the breath work to help calm your body. And I've already done the soft tissue work, and now I'm just focused on sitting in some mobility, doing some mobility work, such as, well, the 90-90 sit. And here I'm focused on keeping my torso as upright as possible. Sometimes I know it's stiff. I know myself, I'm stiff on some sides. And depending on how hard I've been training or what I've been doing, you may have days when you're more stiff, but really focus on your breath work, 4 seconds out, 2 seconds in. And I'll go back and forth. I'll do this side, and then I'll switch over just like this, working to keep my torso as upright as possible and trying to keep my legs down so that my lower leg is parallel with the ground. Step number 3 is actually add some strength to help hold the changes. And you remember, you want to help build some strength in the range of motion you may not necessarily have had. So I'm going to start with 2 legs, and all I'm doing is actually just focusing on my hip hinge. And what you can do is just like this, come down so your feet are, well, about the width that you'd pick up a bar at. Or you can bring your feet a little bit wider, so about the width that you squat at. And what I do is I shift my hips back, big toes down, and shoulders half engaged, squeeze my bum to come up. Now, I would also focus on adding some resistance. A loop band like this is great. And all I'm gonna do is focus on feeling that tension in the back of my legs and my bum, squeezing up. And again, you're gonna work in this rep range of 10 to 15 for, well, at least 2 to 3 sets. And what I'm doing again is focusing on adding some strength work in to help improve those changes, and you can improve some strength in the ranges of motion you may not necessarily have had. So remember, be consistent, follow the steps, which makes a big difference when you follow the steps in order, and put some strength training together so you can be stronger and keep your hips really resilient. I'll also progress that so that I can do the single leg work. And this is going to be great in terms of helping with your balance, but also you progressing things so that you cue your hip. You're especially going to notice this when you lean over. Feel that stretch in the back of your hamstring into your glute. And what I'm doing is I got the band like this for tension. And I'm going to come down, shoulders halfway engaged, kick back straight, and then stand right up. So I'm using the band. And the nice thing about the band is you really notice that tension curve as you stretch things out, squeeze your bum. With this, I'm going to work in the rep range of 8 to 10 per side. Really simple ways that you can help improve the strength and the ranges of motion you're trying to improve, and really follow that stepwise progression so you get the most out of this sequence. Remember, of course, bring it all together, and well, guess what may help bring you out of that protection phase? Yeah, the health of your spine and nervous system. Remember, with corrective chiropractic, you have a brain that sends messages out to your muscles, organs, and helps with how you heal. When your spine lacks motion and the nerves are irritated, that's exactly what your corrective chiropractor is looking for. So not only to help improve spinal motion so your body can work better, but also it may help get you out of that protective state so that you can do more. And you may find you get out of that protective state, things are looser, you move better, and you can go about your day that much better. So consider corrective chiropractic, and if you don't know someone in your area, I'd be happy to help you find someone. Of course, thanks so much for tuning in today. And as I've shared in the past before, I got a big mission in terms of helping people understand their health, that good function for better health, spinal hygiene is vitally important and part of that equation too. Can't do it alone, need your help. So take a moment, make sure you share this if you found it useful, make sure you subscribe so we can interact some more and I can help you out. And if you enjoyed it that much, make sure you like it too. Anyways, we'll talk to you soon. And remember, you're far stronger, more resilient, and resourceful than you may have led to believe. Bye for now.